All right, welcome back, everybody. Yesterday marked the beginning of Human Rights Month. The actual day is celebrated on the 21st of March. 60 years ago, a protest by Sharpville residents against past laws led to the death of 69 people. But once again, the month comes amidst unhappiness by many over the country's inadequate recognition of human rights. To discuss this further, we are joined in studio by Corlett Letlojane, the director at the Human Rights Institute of South Africa. It's good to have you in studio. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. How are we doing when it comes to recognizing human rights and people's rights here in South Africa?
I think what is happening now, we have the living law and the law which is written down. With regard to the living law, you find that there are cultural, there are social ways of thinking, of applying things, but we have this very important law which is in our constitution. Majority of our people are not enforcing it, or there is not enough education around how people can enforce their right. But we do have pieces of legislation, to be honest, that are very progressive, that are giving effect to what the Constitution is seeking to do. The problem has been how those mechanisms are making impact on the ordinary South African. For example, you spoke about the month as the month of human rights. We are commemorating those who played such an important role in the past, who guaranteed our civil and political rights, freedom of assembly, freedom of expression as well. And this is the law that assists citizens to come together and to, seek processes that will address their challenges. Without it, it becomes very, very difficult to communicate or to engage the state.
Yeah. If we look at South Africans and the rights that we have, which ones would you say are the most violated?
The civil and political right.
Yeah.
I think before it used to be that right that was implemented. Now we see the second generation right, which is your economic and social right. The whole process of service delivery has become a problem. For example, the right to basic water, for people to access water, to access even housing, education, health. We've seen a lot of deterioration. We've seen a lot of problems in terms of how the state, deliberate or, service the people. There's shortages, for example, in terms of providing medical health. There's not adequate service. The health service providers, for example, we find that either they're lacking some resources, to supply a number of people that are coming to them, or they don't just want to provide. They are overburdened. There's a lot of need out there, and there isn't enough to provide to people.
And those are, we're talking about basic human rights. This is in our constitution. This is what the people of South Africa are, I suppose, entitled to. And yet that is one of the biggest problems. But when we compare ourselves to other countries, how worse off are we?
Okay, as we compare ourselves, to be honest, I'll start from the Southern Africa region. We remain that important country. We're doing much better than others. As you can see, we are receiving a lot of migrants from the neighboring states, because most of the states in the neighboring of South Africa, they do not have such mechanisms we have. They do not have a progressive constitution like we have. Like in Zimbabwe now, I know that they've adopted a new constitution which have drawn some of the aspirations that we have in our constitution. And we see, even in the region at large, that we are a country that is assisting in some of the institutions in Africa. For example, at the African Union level, we have brought in very, very important mechanism like your APRM and the Constitutive Act of the African Union itself. It comes as a result of a lot of work that was brought by South Africa. Monitoring mechanism is something that we are attributing to. So the problem is, why are we not able to fulfill our obligations as we aspire? It's something that we need to continue encouraging our state parties that definitely South Africa, it's doing much better as compared to what is happening in the Constitution. However, we've seen a lot of standard, going down, degradation of infrastructure, standard, going down on a daily basis, and that is a serious concern.
Yeah.
And the law enforcement as well, the rule of law becomes very, very critical. How do you ensure that those laws are enforced by your courts? They remain independent, your Chapter 9 institutions as well, which plays that important oversight. By the way, the South African Human Rights Commission is entrusted with that function of monitoring all the rights in the Bill of Rights. We cannot go wrong with that. Do they have the capacity to handle all the matters, the problems that we have in the country? And government institutions as well. You find that we have only at national level where experts are dealing with issues like water or human rights issues at national level. When we go to provinces, we do not have experts. We do not have officials who are addressing or receiving all these complaints that we see happening. People have been delivering petitions, people have been delivering concerns, but there is no delegated officials who is dealing with those problems at provincial level.
Well, this is a month dedicated to human rights. We'll be, of course, talking about it throughout the month. This is a good starting point, however. Thank you very, very much for coming in and talking to us here on the program. The 21st of March, of course, is Human Rights Day, and we will be just focusing in on all of these things in the lead up to it. Corlett, Letlojane, who is the director at the Human Rights Institute for South Africa, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thanks.